Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Ross. Welcome back to Book, Body, and Beyond. Today we are discussing wisdom, and we are going to open up to the book of wisdom, which is Proverbs. Proverbs can be found just after halfway point. The book of Psalms is typically the halfway point. So Proverbs is going to be right there at that halfway point in your Bible, assuming you're following along in a Bible. If not, it's okay. There's iPads, there's iPhones. The Bible can be found everywhere. We are in a King James version today. I'll be reading out of my King James as well as some NIV versions of some Bible verses today. But we are in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7, where it says, wisdom, again, we're in the book of wisdom, so pretty convenient. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. Great verse. For me, it's a page over. For you, it might be a page or two. Maybe it's on the same page. Who knows? But we are in Proverbs 9:10. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. So a few words, of course, popping out, or hopefully to you, would be wisdom, understanding. Wisdom, in this case, the Hebrew word for that is chokmah. Chokmah, I think I'm pronouncing it right. You could say chokmah for those English speakers, but it's similar to like a Hanukkah, if you will. And I am not a Hebrew speaker, to be clear, so I am doing my best there, but I believe it's chokmah. That's wisdom in Hebrew, and the word understanding is binah. So in this case, chokmah is the principal thing. Therefore, get chokmah, and with all thy getting, get binah. In Proverbs 9:10, that fear that we're talking about, there's like 9 different versions of fear in Hebrew. The one we're talking about is yirah. Yirah it's an awe or reverence. And if you have that for the Lord, that is the beginning of wisdom. And the knowledge, and here's a new Hebrew word, it's da'ath, and we'll come back to that word in just a second, of the holy is understanding or binah. So we find that word da'ath throughout the Old Testament, but in particular, I want to point out Hosea 4:6, where it's talking about, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, or da'ath. And this knowledge, it's not something you read about or you go to school to learn about. It's something you have to experience. It's something you have to go through personally to gain that understanding, that wisdom. And I want to talk about those words, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom in just a moment. But first, I want to quickly turn to James 1:5, get a little New Testament in here, a little New Testy. Where it says, James chapter 1, verse 5, it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God. The NIV says, if any of you lacks wisdom, that word is Sophia. Now we're in the New Testament, so it's Greek. You should ask God. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you want it, just ask for it. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So using that Greek word, Sophia, we can apply that to philosophy, for instance. Phila meaning love, Sophia meaning wisdom. And if you're somebody that's interested in gaining wisdom or knowledge or understanding, particularly about the Bible, I would focus on my big 3 Christian philosophers, if you will, are Origen of Alexandria, Augustine of Hippo, and St. Thomas Aquinas. These are men who poured their heart and soul into studying a book like the Bible and trying to understand it and apply philosophy to it. And whether that influence came from Plato, like in the case of Origen, or whether it came from Aristotle, like in the case of Thomas Aquinas, you can benefit directly from all of their life's work. So like I mentioned, those 3 words I wanted to focus on, wisdom being the first one, and that's just, again, acquiring information, knowledge, whether that's through reading, studying, experiential knowledge probably would be ideal. And then we can shift to the understanding or the meaning or the why behind that information and seeing how it all fits together. And then comes the wisdom or the application of that understanding and knowledge and applying discernment to make the right choice. Because you can have knowledge without understanding and understanding without wisdom, but wisdom requires both knowledge and understanding. You can think of knowledge as more of a passive learning, whereas wisdom is more of an active, experience-based discernment. So that's what I've got for you on this Wednesday. The book of Proverbs is known as the book of wisdom. It's a pretty short read. I would flip through it, read a little bit as you can, and look into the works of Origen of Alexandria or Augustine of Hippo or St. Thomas Aquinas. These are 3 men who have significantly influenced my work here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Next Wednesday, we'll be getting into the book of Isaiah. Until then, keep reading, keep building, and keep looking up.